I don't think he had anything to apologise for. I think it's an intimidating experience, those Senate estimates. OK, let's get back to the leadership thing now. If it works out as I kind of figure it will, Julia Gillard herself would initiate a challenge. Now, would the media interpret that as a sign of weakness on her part or just an acceptance that this has to be sorted?
I think it does put her in a weaker position, and that's why she's not wanted to do it. She wants to remain Prime Ministerial. She wants to remain above all this. But the clamour is, as we've been discussing, to such a point, something has to happen. As someone noted, Kevin Rudd's on a plane out of the country as usual when things get to, get to a certain point.
And surely, if she stands up and says, "Look, this is just out of control. It's difficult for me to do my job, and for the good of the country, we've got to sort this out," that surely would resonate well with the public.
Well, but the question is how it's going to resonate with the 103 people who get a vote in the room, and you'd have to say that over recent weeks the momentum has been towards Rudd. So, I mean, whenever we talk to factional power brokers in this thing, I always assume that they're inflating their own guys' numbers and deflating the other guys' numbers. But, a couple of weeks ago, Gillard's camp was giving Rudd maybe 15 votes max. Now they concede that he's got 30 votes. His people say he's got 45 votes. Let's split the difference, say he's got 40. That's not a bad starting point.
As late as last night, you take the Australians' numbers, they say 44 for Rudd, either in the camp or leaning towards Rudd. The Gillard camp says you can take 13 of those away straight away, and that gets you to 31. But still, that's a sizable number.
It's
but what we just looked at there, by the way, is was it where they had Cheeseman on the supports list?
Yeah,
but of course, to be fair, the story then explained that he had switched.
Yeah.
So there is a bit of double counting.
There's a bit of double counting going on. But 30 is almost a third. It's a sizable amount of your backbench that doesn't really want you in the job if that's where it happens.
I think he's well over 30. And
I think it probably is.
The momentum is swinging his way, and I think there's various signs of that. The fact that Julia Gillard's camp is clearly on the defensive, that ministers are going around talking to backbenchers, and the fact that some of the big institutional blocks in the party are starting to position themselves for, whatever eventuality, like the New South Wales right, saying, oh, well, we support the leader, but we're not going to play a role in this vote. Well, since when did the New South Wales right not wield their numbers if they thought they could?
Yes.
I think Kevin Rudd's strategy from the start was always to make it a slow burn campaign and this is what he wanted, the party eventually to come to him. He's been the one that was dumped. He wants the party to say sorry and to come to him. He hasn't wanted to call on a challenge. It's been Julia Gillard's forces that has wanted to bring this thing to a head. As things have
needed to bring it to a head,
have evolved, and you ask the question is, does this undermine or promote the authority of the Prime Minister? So the headlines yesterday was about that the Rudd camp might bring it on. You saw Kevin Rudd on our clip last night.
That was never going to happen.
He's saying no, there is no challenge. So he's starting to talk about, actually saying no challenge. We haven't seen that before. And now we see the storyline is that the Gillard forces might bring it to a head. They want to bring it to a head. Yeah. And the Prime Minister for the first time said this was making things more difficult. So for the first time acknowledging it's making her job more difficult, they'll want to bring it on.
It's a game of bluff. We've seen, and history tells us these things can be miscalculated if you wait too long, if you get the timing wrong. Look at Houston, got the timing wrong. The temptation for the Gillard camp is, we'll bring it on because he doesn't have the numbers. But of course, if things are as soft as people suggest, and I think there is softness in there, that could be, a diabolically bad decision. But Rudd hasn't wanted to be seen as the wrecker. All
right, well, let's accept that he gets, as you say, Lenore, well over 30, but he won't get to 50 surely in the first round. What then is the impact of that? I guess it depends on how many numbers Rudd gets. That if he gets in the mid to high 30s, I would have thought longer term, Julia Gillard has a problem, and that's when maybe the third candidate comes into play at a second ballot.
That's true, although I wouldn't rule out the possibility that he could win the first time round. It depends on those 20 or so people who are undecided. And, what did Steve Gibbons call him, an egomaniac psychopath? But he might, if he's the egomaniac psychopath who they think can mean that they continue to have a job, they might just vote for him. So, I don't know how it's going to play. I wouldn't rule out that he could get there. But if not, as you say, then things continues in this dysfunctional limbo, and that's when a third candidate could get...
But that's what I think is the problem for Julia Gillard, is no one can see a scenario that works through once there's a challenge where she ends up ultimately still being the Prime Minister, where this all goes away and fades into black and they can get on with governing. I don't think that's a scenario people can see. So if there is a challenge, maybe enough of them will want to put it to bed.